Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 3, printed in the congressional record, offered by Mr. DeFazio of Oregon.
The gentleman from Oregon is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the chairman.
The gentleman will suspend. Gentleman from raise a point of order.
Mr. Chairman, I reserve a point of order against the amendment.
Gentleman reserves a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't rise to offer this amendment because I believe that the General Investigations account is overfunded. In fact, I believe the entire Corps budget is way underfunded when you look at the real infrastructure needs of the United States. I appreciate the fact that the committee and the House have found $288 million more than the President proposed, but it's still $156 million less than last year. And all across the country, we have locks and dams and jetties failing. In particular, in my own district, we have a dam at Fern Ridge, which is more than 50 years old, which is on the verge of catastrophic failure. The Corps has lowered the level of water behind the dam. They say that at any moment they may have to dewater the reservoir, and when the reservoir is dewatered, we lose both the extraordinary recreation benefits of one of the most heavily recreated lakes in Oregon, the revenues that flow from that recreation, but we also lose the flood control. And just a few years ago, this dam was vital when we had a wet winter, and they're now predicting that we again are going to have a wet winter. So if the dam just fails a little bit more, we're going to lose all the flood control capability and all of the recreational attributes. And the Corps in my region says, well, they just won't have the money until the year 2006 to fix this dam. Now, that's not acceptable. We can't have dams that are failing and say, come back in 3 years, and by the way, if you have a 100-year flood in the interim, you're out of luck. We'll have hundreds of millions of downstream damage, and I guess then federal flood insurance will pay for it out of a different pocket than the pocket out of which we're appropriating this bill. So my intention in offering this amendment is not to criticize the committee or the Corps or any of these budgets, but to raise the point that the O&M account, which goes to issues like the failing Fern Ridge Dam, goes to the dredging of the small ports along the southern Oregon coast, is woefully underfunded. I also understand that a point of amendment, a point of order may lie against this amendment, and yeah, I'd be happy to yield to the chairman.
I very much appreciate the gentleman yielding, and I want him to know that I'm aware of the needs of his district and many others around the country. Frankly, I had in my prepared remarks, which I didn't give today, I have some problems. The operation and maintenance backlog is nearly $1 billion and growing every year, and I talk about that. I also talk about the fact that OMB's got to work with us on a long-term basis, because every year we go on this aging infrastructure we need to make an investment, and I want to make that investment. And what I'm going to try to do in this bill, and this is my first time doing this, and I've got a very able ranking member. When we sit down with the other body in conference, I'm going to try hard to increase the amount of money available for operation and maintenance, and I'll try very hard to get the OMB to work with us to be more realistic in future budgets, because I don't think it's realistic. We need to help the Corps of Engineers so that we don't make so many hard choices in the support of our economic, environmental, and recreational infrastructure. And I want to assure the gentleman and everybody else in here, we got a real problem here. This affects our economy. We have to maintain these facilities and make sure they're up to date, because it has a detrimental effect on our economy and our environment. And I would appreciate if the gentleman would withdraw his amendment, but I want him to know that I'm very sincere about trying to get this account up, not only now, but in the future.
Well, I thank the chairman for his words, and I thank him for his work on this, and also his desire to increase the funding. I share that. I intend to support the bill here today on the floor, because it does at least partially fund these needs. And I will certainly support a bill that comes back from conference, which does better in these areas. Gentlemen from
The
Indiana.
gentleman would yield. I would add my remarks, and I pointed out in full committee when remarks this bill up, and again, it's not a failure of the subcommittee, that the high priority operation and maintenance budget for the Corps during the current fiscal year is $884 million behind. For this coming fiscal year, that is going to climb to $1 billion. Additionally, non-high priority operation and maintenance backlog is $1.9 billion, and more clearly has to be done, and we will do our best in conference.
Well, thank you. I thank you both for your efforts, and I will do all I can to support those enhancements. And with that, I ask unanimous consent to withdraw my amendment.
The gentleman from Oregon asks unanimous consent that the amendment be withdrawn. Is there objection? Hearing none, the amendment is withdrawn.